Republican Senator Mike Lee of Utah is a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He says it would be a mistake for Democrats to impeach President Trump in response to the Mueller report. He's got a new book out titled Our Lost Declaration, America's Fight Against Tyranny from King George to the Deep State. The senator joins us now at the CBSN set. So tell us about the book. Give me the three-line summary.
This is a book that tells people the story of how we became a country. It tells the story not only of how the Declaration of Independence came about, but also about the things that led up to it, including the overly aggressive British Crown and Parliament that saddled us with unacceptable taxes, that sent forth swarms of officers to harass us and eat out our substance, culminating in events like the Boston Tea Party, where American patriots boarded ships laden with British tea in an act of symbolic protest against an overreaching foreign government. They threw that tea into the harbor so as not to have to participate in that crony capitalist, monopolistic, and heavily taxing regime.
What do you think the Founding Fathers would make of Donald Trump?
I think they would, first of all, be thrilled at the progress our country has made. I think if you're referring to the fact that they might not look at Donald Trump as a perfect being, would not surprise them, because they themselves knew that human beings are imperfect. And that's why you need a system of government like ours that places limits around who our chief executive is. I don't think they would find his mortality, his fallibility, particularly surprising. They'd want to make sure that the checks and balances were in place, and that each branch of government was functioning as it should.
You said mortality. I assume you meant morality?
No, I mean the conditions of mortality result in people making wrong decisions, occasionally doing something that might be unwise, possibly immoral or dangerous. That part wouldn't surprise them. What would surprise them would be the fact that we've got a Congress, as I explained in the book today, that has gone from being the most dangerous branch, as it was by design, given that its people are elected every 2 years. In the case of the Senate, it's 1/3 of the body being re-elected every 2 years. In the case of the House, they're all re-elected every 2 years. The Congress was always supposed to be the most dangerous branch. And yet Congress has basically deferred a substantial portion of its lawmaking power over to the executive branch.
Okay,
I think that would really trouble them.
So in this point, Congress is saying, based on the Mueller report, we want to, and not the whole Congress, we're talking about a small number of Democrats who are now saying we should start impeachment proceedings. You don't think that's a good idea? Let me ask you this, and in all seriousness, please be as candid as possible. If the Mueller report was about Barack Obama, would the Republicans not be talking about starting impeachment proceedings?
I can't speak for other Republicans, but I can speak for myself in saying, had this been about President Obama, I would look back to the last time the impeachment remedy was used.
Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton. Didn't really end well for anyone. Certainly
Absolutely.
not the Republicans who initiated it.
But you're a man of principle. On principle, is it worth it if you're the Democrats?
On principle, I don't believe it is, because I don't believe we're dealing with impeachable conduct here.
Okay.
There was no finding, no scintilla of any evidence of collusion. As to obstruction, they were unable to come up with a case against the president that could survive in court.
Well, but
of course, it's.
But I don't know if that's true. I mean, Mueller basically has punted to the Congress. You know, you're a
Sure.
lawyer, spent time in appellate law. That Mueller report is overwhelmingly pretty damning. I mean, you read it, right? Did you read the report, by the way?
Yes.
The whole report?
Yes,
okay.
I have read through it. I'm still working my way through the entire document, but I've spent hours with it, reading all the summaries I can get my hands on, and a lot of the material. Still haven't finished the whole thing. It takes a while to read. Yeah, there's some stuff in there that's unflattering. I wouldn't regard that as material that justifies impeachment.
So none of what you read amounts to obstruction?
None of what I read amounts to obstruction, certainly in the chargeable sense. The question whether to impeach someone is a political question rather than a legal question of what you could do in court.
Fair,
so that's up to Congress. I don't see anything that would justify the extraordinary political remedy of impeaching this president.
Let's talk about Don McGahn.
Sure.
How do you view him based on what you read in the Mueller report?
Don McGahn was a faithful servant to President Trump. One of the things a good staffer does is to walk the principal off of a ledge that would be unwise. I think Don McGahn did that on a number of circumstances, and he did it well.
Do you think Don McGahn should be forced to testify?
That's not a decision for me to make. He has testified for these interviews.
But do you want to hear from him?
I would love to hear from him. I would love to hear more
under oath
of what he has to say.
Okay.
That decision will not be made by me, but if that decision is made by the relevant committee chairman, I would look forward to talking to him. I think he comes out of the Mueller report very much vindicated as someone who wanted to do the right thing and wanted to make sure that the White House operated in an ethical fashion.
I opened your book, and one thing I read on page 121 was from Thomas Paine, where he says, quote, that so far as we approve of monarchy, that in America the law is king. We have a president who bucks the law. Most recently, Kirstjen Nielsen, his Homeland Security Secretary, resigned because she was saying that the president was trying to get her to do some things that were against the law. Do you believe that this president is violating the law as we have it on the books?
No, I don't, but I do think we have a big problem with the modern presidency becoming like unto a kingdom.
But I just want to talk about this president.
Yeah, but it's impossible for me to separate out this president from others, because over time you've had Congress deliberately handing over to the presidency the power to start trade wars, to impose tariffs not approved by Congress.
I know, but I'm running out of time. Just help me out on this issue.
The power to make laws given to the executive branch. That by itself makes this a dangerous form of government that starts to resemble certain features of despotism.
You don't put that blame on President Trump?
I don't. This has been placed, put in place over the course of the last 80 years. And as I point out in the book, it's happened under the leadership of houses of representatives, of senates, and of White Houses of every conceivable partisan combination. This isn't something that's owned by one party or the other. But Donald Trump now occupies a presidency and Oval Office that has itself become far too powerful through willful neglect of the legislative power given by the Constitution to the Congress.
Last question, yes or no? Trump wins in 2020?
As of this moment, I think Trump wins in 2020. We've got a long way to go. A year and a half is a political eternity, especially in an election cycle that involves the presidency.
Will you support him?
Yes.
Thank you. Senator Lee, we appreciate the time.
Thank you.